Welcome back to Star Wars Minute. It's the daily podcast where we analyze, scrutinize, and shift the tide of the Star Wars movies 1 minute at a time. I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
I'm Alex Robinson from AlexRobinson.fun.
I'm Riley Silverman from the internet. You can find me on Twitter at Riley J. Silverman.
And thanks again for coming back to finish out the week with us, Riley.
Thanks for having me.
It's as we were just saying in the green room, we got a kind of a full week of Jedi stuff going on here, and this kind of continues. We get a good kind of conversation / flashback action in minute 80 of Star Wars Episode 8, Rise of Sky. Nope. The Last Jedi. See how many times this is the longest movie, so I have until the end to get it right. We talked about
20 minutes into it.
Yeah, we talked about Rise of Skywalker yesterday, and maybe that was still on my brain. But
I just can't wait.
Minute 80 of The Last Jedi starts with Luke saying it was beyond what he ever imagined, and it ends with Rey saying this could be how we win, which I think that's that meme, right, from the Adam Sandler. This could be how we win.
Does Adam Sandler say that in a movie?
It's the Uncut Gems meme. He says, "This is how we win," I think, doesn't he? Something like that. I don't know. I haven't seen the film, but I know that's going around. And let me know.
The only meme I know from that movie is a lot dirtier than that, so I don't. Yeah, but I am excited about this minute because it's the only actual usage of Luke's green lightsaber in the sequel trilogy, I believe. So that was fun to get a moment of.
Yeah, there's a flashback last week where we first ignited it in his version of the story, but yeah,
Kylo Ren's version of it,
right?
That's right. Yeah.
But but the this is the canonical. The other, all the green happens in flashback, which is interesting. We talked about that, and people brought it up. People told us, pointed us to exactly where Rian Johnson had been talking about it. But the decision to have Luke show up at the end with his blue lightsaber, and I've been thinking a lot about lightsaber choices lately. Not purely within the text of the movie, but extra textual. Like why in Revenge of the Sith, like why have Luke stick Anakin? Boy, my mind is all over the place.
Should we just start
There's
over?
a lot of movies.
In Revenge of the Sith, why have Anakin stick with his blue lightsaber for so long versus having him, as soon as he becomes Darth Vader, why not have him switch to a red lightsaber? The old one is in a thing, and Padme could give it to go to Obi-Wan to be like, hey, you hang on to this because he's going to need it because he's still good or whatever. And that way, your whole lightsaber battle there is red versus blue, and that's a much and going into we talked about it a lot yesterday, but we're still gonna hit on Rise of Skywalker. Same deal. When you're introducing a new lightsaber here with Leia's lightsaber and making it a plot point, and it's going to be involved in lightsaber activity, why not make it different? Why not make that yellow or at least green to have it stand out? Easier to tell the two apart. You get a kind of more visually interesting lightsaber duel. But here, you don't have the same issues. You have blue versus red, which is a classic lightsaber duel scenario, and I get the idea that Luke is using that because that would make Kylo Ren the angriest. Luke using the blue lightsaber when he comes back at the end of this movie as a vision. He can choose any lightsaber he wants. Why is he showing up at the end with a blue lightsaber? Why is the green lightsaber only in this flashback and not in that scene too? And I get the idea that is what would make Kylo the angriest in the lightsaber that he was already like, oh, that belongs to me, like that.
Yeah, that's Darth Vader's
like,
lightsaber.
That's mine.
Yeah.
But I think it's a discussion to be had. Like, would that make him angrier than Luke showing up with the lightsaber that he threatened Kylo Ren with? Well, he threatened Ben Solo with to turn him into Kylo Ren. Would that not have also created anger and hatred? And
that's what I was thinking too. That's why I'm always surprised they went with that choice as well. Like, why isn't Luke in the Vader one? Why wouldn't it be the one that you use to break him? But maybe it is the tie-in of the lightsaber being Vader's, like, Anakin's saber that Kylo has an attachment to. Like, that might be more of it than just, this is the one I tried to kill you with. Like,
right.
Or like, Yeah, and then similarly on lightsaber choices, I feel the same way about if you're gonna have a scene in this movie where the lightsaber gets destroyed, why? And I actually bought it and I have it, but like, why do the reforged lightsaber for Rise? Like, if you're going to have Rey make her own lightsaber, why not just start the movie with her having already made her own lightsaber, or make that part of her training,
right?
Instead of going, okay, well, we're still going to use the same lightsaber we've been using, but we're going to put an armband around it, and I love it. That's the one that I own because I never owned the Graflex before, and so I'm like, well, Rey means a lot to me, so I'm going to use the one that she exclusively used, which is really fun for me. But yeah, I feel the same way. Like, I don't know, like, why.
Yeah,
why is Leia's blue, and also like, so after this is a comic thing with Anakin's going with the blue lightsaber, and then in the comics in Darth Vader Lord of the Sith, there's actually a storyline where he gets his own lightsaber and like goes through the process of doing it. And there's the whole thing now where the reason why Sith lightsabers are red is because they've corrupted and bled the crystal, which I can tell Alex is not a fan of. No. But because it is established in the lore, I'm always like, oh, I wonder if there was ever a thought to, instead of Ben throwing away Kylo's lightsaber, if he would have, like, what if instead of, I know he had to throw it away because they had to bring into the idea of like Leia's lightsabers being brought to him to use, but like, what if it had been more like when he made peace with the Force, like if he'd healed his own crystal, and so his lightsaber would have been like white and burning the white instead of the red. Like, I think that would have been really interesting to see visually, but you know, I didn't make the movies, so I don't know the choices that went into each individual lightsaber. But I'm the same way. I'm such a lightsaber nerd that I think a lot about the exact choice. And I agree with you about the visuals in the end of Revenge of the Sith, of especially when they're like hanging off the side of that thing as it's sinking and you just see two blue lightsabers. It would have been really interesting to see a red one there as well.
Could that be the reason why, is because he knew he was going to be on a lava planet, and so him having a red lightsaber, it would tend to get lost in the
could be
in the glowing red background. It does seem odd.
That's why we have green lightsabers in the first place, is because they were doing so many shots in the desert against the sky, and they're like, blue is just going to get lost. Let's make it green.
Yeah,
it's green because he's got more of a Jedi consular style to how he.
But it is interesting that Lucas, being such a, well, dialogue doesn't matter, it's all about visuals. You think Anakin with the red lightsaber tells you all you need to know. So it is odd that he didn't go with that.
I think he didn't go with it specifically because he wanted the moment of Obi-Wan taking the lightsaber from him after he's defeated him in combat and wants to like take it back. I think that's why he did it.
It could be, who knows what's real and what's just on the internet. But I thought that was a notable thing that Lucas had actually forgotten about that part.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then at the end had to add in the scene where Obi-Wan is just like, oh, I'm going to take this and give this to your son, because it's like, oh yeah, wait, that lightsaber needs to be at the end. That needs to be in Obi-Wan's, footlocker.
Yeah.
Well,
that's fair enough. Then I think that I haven't listened. I haven't read as much about like why George made what choices he did with that series. That might be because I do love the meme where it's Anakin burning on the beach on the side of the lava flow, and he's like, I hate you, but take my lightsaber and give it to my son. I want him to have it. Like, there's like that fun.
Yeah.
Well, here's a somewhat related matter. Speaking of apprentices fighting their masters, would Snoke / Palpatine have been happy if Luke had killed Kylo Ren here? You know what I mean? Like, if Luke had not had his change of thought, and presumably, if what we're saying is that they wanted Luke to be able to pick up on the evilness in Kylo Ren. Like, would they have wanted it? If they had killed him, would Palpatine have been like, good? Or
I think he would have been, because if Luke kills Kylo, now you've got a dark side Luke, basically. Like, I don't know.
Does that fulfill what Palpatine needs to happen for his dyad plan to come
all
to work?
Part of Palpatine's plan.
He would have been like, oh, now I got to make another one of these. Hang on a sec. I think I had one in. Well, I think the opposite, because I think it's not, again, we can read into how much there's actually, who's pulling the strings here. But one of my favorite bit of dialogue from this minute is when Luke, after he turns on the lightsaber, and then he says, and then it passed like a fleeting shadow, and I was left with shame and consequence, with consequence, and that like him turning it on, and I think that kind of like maybe him being pushed to that, and then as soon as he ignites the lightsaber, they're like, all right, great, the plan is in motion. Turn off the Luke, like stop pushing Luke. Kylo's gonna wake up Kylo Ren, and and he's being driven to do that, and then part of it is obviously who hasn't been being I the thing that I thought about first was like a fast food, like I really want Taco Bell, and then I get Taco Bell, I was like, and then I'm left with shame and consequence because I'm like, oh, did I really want that? I don't know. Why did I order that? But that's not to say if Taco Bell would like to sponsor the show, I'm all for it. But
taste the ring.
Run for the Force.
But yeah, like that. It feels to me like that. Like as soon as he ignites the lightsaber, then the switch is flipped, and whether or not that's his own internal kind of like obsession to a point, and then be like, wait a minute, what am I doing? Or if that's essentially hardening Pharaoh's heart or whatever for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I think the question for me is what is Palpatine's objective in this scene, or Snoke's, depending on when it was made. But what is the bad guy's objective here? Is the objective to get a new apprentice in the form of Ben Solo / Kylo Ren, or is the objective to take Luke's new Jedi Academy off the board? So it's basically, regardless of how this scene plays out, that objective is completed, right? Because either Kylo feels like he's being betrayed and fights back and falls to the dark side, or Luke slaughters one of his kids in his charge, and that also, I think the other parents are going to start pulling their kids out of that school if if the headmaster murders one of the kids in their sleep. I think that, or Luke is so shamed for what he did that he falls to the dark side, or he gives up training, which is what he does anyway. So I think that I think you can kind of get lost in a quagmire of thinking that like the way things played out exactly are what Palpatine wanted to have happen. But you can look at it as like, regardless of how this scene ends, he moved all these players into a situation where the result is Luke's academy is done for.
Right.
And then like, luckily because I think that does work for how Palpatine works. Like, I think that, like, for example, the Clone Wars, I think whether the Republic wins or whether the Trade Federation wins the Clone Wars, Palpatine still has a way of like either Sidious and Dooku become the new leader. Like Dooku's now the president, but Sidious is still pulling his strings, or vice versa. And same thing where, he's grooming Anakin to be Darth Vader. He's still working Dooku, and whichever one wins is his apprentice. Like, and that is the Sith mentality completely of whoever is the strongest is the one that gets to thrive. And so he's working both sides of it against each other, and then whichever one is the strongest threat is the one he's going to follow through on.
Yeah, I mean, even his very first plan was, he, on the one hand, he wanted Queen Amidala to sign that treaty, and on the other hand was like, I have to kill Queen Amidala to stop her from signing that treaty. Yeah. And so it's he
wants the chaos, no matter, like, one side's going to go to war with the other side, regardless of which way it plays out, but he just wants the chaos to be in motion. And same thing with the original trilogy of when he brings Luke to his chamber, he wants Luke to kill Vader. Like, he's saying, okay, now I want you to prove that you are more powerful than my apprentice and become my new apprentice. And then when Luke doesn't do it, then he tries to get Vader to kill Luke. Like, he basically, regardless of how it plays out, he wants the stronger of the two to survive and become his new student.
Well, yeah, that's why I think this worked out as best as it could for the dark side, in that you get both, it's a twofer. You get, like, okay, Academy destroyed, and the best, highest rated prospect in this in this class here, in this draft class, is totally going to the dark side. So we got this, like, this is the best it could have. I give the Sith an A+ for this draft. This is a
played this one beautifully.
They managed to break the connection between Luke and his most talented pupil, and then actually got that pupil to fall. It's not unlike what he did with Anakin, where he basically took the most powerful Jedi and corrupted him in a way, and also managed to manipulate events so the Jedi seemed like they were corrupt, and like that, like it's just as much because of what the Jedi's actions are that make Anakin fall to the dark side as it is what Palpatine does to Anakin. And this is what Palpatine is great at, is playing both sides against each other until he gets his outcome the way he wants it to have happen.
One thing I especially like about this, viewing it as like the temptation, the last temptation of Luke Skywalker to kill his student, is that it's a kind of, I love the idea of Palpatine setting this up specifically because it's like a play on what got Palpatine killed last time, which is that Luke was about to kill this guy, and then he was like, "What am I doing? I can't kill this person." And then that's what So his literally like Luke won by throwing away his lightsaber and not killing Darth Vader. Yeah. So this is kind of like another try at that same sort of.
It's a good plan. It's going to work. I'm just going to keep doing it over and over again.
Average just says he will have to kill someone eventually by doing it. So.
He tries it again with Snoke, and then unfortunately, Kylo kills Snoke instead. It's like, oh gosh, this plan just keeps not working. It's gonna work.
So I like that it reminded me of the end of you even see him looking at his hand the same way Luke looked at his hand in Return of the Jedi, where he's like, this is part of who I am.
Yeah, and that is what Palpatine is great at, not only playing two sides, but like using your strengths and making them into your weaknesses. Like he uses Anakin's extreme connection to the Force and his power, the Chosen One, to make him the perfect apprentice to take on as Darth Vader. So, and he uses Anakin's arrogance about his power combined with the Jedi's fear of Anakin's power to make Anakin turn against the Jedi, which is just such a powerful move to do. So, using the fact that he knows Luke is conflicted about attacking and his fear of the dark side to lead him back to the same kind of choice he had to make previously is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's another. They we don't know all the behind the scenes machinations yet. So they say Luke says Snoke had already turned his heart, which is interesting because that's Snoke had already been kind of playing this game while Kylo's still at the academy. Riley, have you read we've had a couple of guests mention the Rise of Kylo Ren comics?
No, I want to read them. I haven't gotten into them. I've read a lot of the Darth Vader ones, but I haven't read any of the comics that are set with the sequel trilogy, which is weird because you think I would because I love this trilogy so much. But
apparently they go into exactly what it sounds like, the Rise of Kylo Ren, and what details a little bit of how Ben Solo kind of becomes Kylo Ren, and it starts out with him doing kind of, we go into the Knights of Ren and all this other stuff, and I'm interested to read it, but I haven't read it yet. I want to know what, like, that Luke mentioning that Snoke had already turned his heart by this point makes me think, without knowing that, I had kind of had it in my head of like, Kylo Ren was on the edge, Ben Solo was kind of on the edge a little bit. Luke freaked him out, and then he went, and then kind of Snoke showed up and be like, "Hey, I got you!"
Drove him into the arms of.
That's what Rey says. That's what Rey says here in the scene. Like where you failed was not trying to kill him. Well, I mean, that is obviously part way for him, but his big failure was deciding that Kylo had already made up his mind when he entered that house, and like because she's like, I still see the power for change in him, and she's ultimately right. Yeah. But in this movie, she's not. But the fact that that's where Luke failed him was deciding that his fate was already cast and couldn't be deterred, and that's where he got it wrong. So I think that Luke believes fully that Kylo had already been turned by this point, and that's why Rey is like, you were wrong about that, and that's why this didn't work out the way you wanted it to.
Yeah, which again, going back to I don't know why I'm surprised about that, but Rey being a strong character and her being the kind of optimist and being like, no, you were not even optimism, but just that kind of force of positivity and kind of more calm. It's just kind of like, hey, you didn't, you that's not where you failed. This is exactly exactly what you just said, that you didn't fail him by doing that. You failed him by kind of realizing that his die was cast. Yeah, you failed.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong. You failed him, and you definitely made the universe worse. But
Yeah.
But that wasn't you were wrong about where you were coming from in that, and that there's still
Yeah.
a chance, and this this could be how we win, and that her coming from that, which could read as her kind of rural Jakku naivete, but also just plays into that her goodness and her strength and goodness combined, which is what makes Rey an awesome character.
Yeah. Totally agree with that.
So I wanted to call attention to the fact that once again Luke is wearing the sacred Jedi robes that we first saw him in, the white getup
In the flashback, right?
In the flashback, he's
right.
wearing the same outfit that he wore when he threw the lightsaber over his back shoulder.
And I do want to talk about, because we left this as a cliffhanger two days ago, but Kylo is sleeping in what seems to be a pair of white pajama-like garments. It's very soft and looks breathable.
Oh, right.
Looks comfortable. Maybe some sort of space cotton. I don't know, but it's not the Jedi robes with the belt and everything.
Well, that ties into, I feel like between that shot of him and the well, I guess it's a couple of shots, but that him reacting in the flashback, I wrote that that's probably the closest that we're going to get to Wes Anderson take on Star Wars, because I love that his pajamas and then also just like the stuff on his nightstand is totally, we talked about it a little bit from the other flashback, but I love that like those little kind of detailed things are totally like, oh yeah, that's what Wes Anderson did a Star Wars look a little bit like this.
Yeah.
Just this one snippet right here. And I would like to see that.
It's a poor snippet.
What this predisposes is, what if it didn't? We all know that Kylo Ren's heart had already been changed, but what Rey predisposes here is...
We all know that Palpatine died on the Death Star, but what this movie presupposes is...
Dark science!
That's the next one.
That's one of my favorite takes, sorry.
I also wanted to call attention to the fact of... I continue to be impressed by Mark Hamill's ambidextrosity. He when he's using his lightsaber one-handed, he holds it in his right hand, but when he uses it two hands, his left hand is the dominant hand. And I know Mark Hamill also shoots with his left or right hand. So there's some shots where he's shooting left-handed and he wears his holster on his right hand, but because Mark Hamill himself he can use both hands for stuff.
Do you think it's a choice he's making as well because of Luke's robot hand? Do you think like he's like starting to favor his human hand when he has the opportunity to, or do you think that does that play into it at all? Because I know that when he's doing the defending against Rey in the last minute with the antenna, I think he's using his robot hand, but I can't remember.
Yeah, when he holds something like his lightsaber with just one hand, he still uses his robot hand.
Okay.
But if he's going both-handed, he does it with his left. Anyway,
so I wonder if like when he needs to steady it with the both hands, that's when he brings the human hand in again, or if it is just that's how Mark does stuff and it just happened to show on camera that one. Now I'm really curious if it was a conscious choice or it's just how he happens to hold stuff.
Where he like if he puts the human hand on the bottom, it gets pinched because like he can't feel it with the other one, so it's like he's got to put it at the top because if the robot hand slides down, it's going to hurt his human hand. But
we're gonna have to check Empire and see pre-robot hand what the record shows.
Yeah, like when he's flailing at the guys are throwing toasters at him off screen.
Yeah,
that we have to watch that.
Right. So yeah.
I sound design notice here. As the hut collapses, as we see the in the flashback, Kylo Ren's upset. He grabs his lightsaber and kind of brings the house down. There's a little squeal there that I couldn't figure out what that was intended to be.
It's Gogru.
Well, yeah.
How dare you?
or potentially I thought also that's the caretakers being very upset that another house is getting destroyed.
This guy! Yeah. I love the caretakers so much.
Yeah. But if you go back and listen to it, there's a weird, it's almost like a whoop kind of.
Like Crate Dragon sound?
I don't know. What exactly is a Crate Dragon sound? Because I've heard several different iterations of it lately. But
it's like cats. Sometimes they purr, sometimes they mew, sometimes they growl,
Now and forever.
But yeah, it's an interesting sound that I don't fully. I definitely didn't hear the first time or so watching it, and then but going through minute by minute, I was like, "What does that sound?" Because it's like a weird. It almost sounds like somebody whooping. But I don't know.
It's the Wilhelm whoop.
It could be maybe it's a porg nest getting crushed.
It's while this is all happening,
empty porg
Chewie
nest.
is just going to town on some porgs, and that's why he's just having a porg free for all.
I wish they'd intercut between the scenes of violence against the porgs at the same time you're talking about the destruction of the Jedi school.
Right. And
So.
Chew's having a porg party.
Yeah.
Porg party.
All you can eat.
Well, for the most part, I think that's it. This is definitely a powerful couple of minutes that you got. Did you? You said yesterday that you didn't have. We didn't have enough time to go through other minutes that we've already passed. You have any other quick notes? Anything you want us to look out for in the rest of the movie, the second half of the movie?
I mean, I think it's all stuff that you probably know more than I do. So I
we haven't gotten there yet, so maybe not.
Yeah.
You're
I mean,
talking about the
obviously.
crystal foxes.
What's that?
Those crystal foxes that we're gonna see. Those.
Yeah, the Vulptrixes. I love things like the hints that Luke is not really there on the crate when right. The fact that the sand doesn't move or the salt doesn't move when he puts it. Those kind of things are great. I always try to figure out when exactly Leia knows that he's not physically there. Like, this is because she doesn't feel the dice when he hands them to her. Like, what's that kind of stuff? I'm always into that kind of stuff. And of course, the only other scene that I think I would have been more excited. This is actually I couldn't believe how good of a scene that I got because this is such a juicy thing for me. It's I'm imagining what it's going to be like when you have someone who basically gets 5 minutes that are all that battle scene in the Red Room on Snoke's ship. So actually, I'm actually kind of glad I didn't get that minute because I've been told by people that if you watch it broken down as fight choreography, it's not very good. And I'm like, well, I'm never going to do that then because I love that scene and I don't need to watch anything that's going to make me like it less because it's not going to ruin my life to keep liking it. So it's great for me. I don't care if it's not a good choreographed fight because it's so much fun and it's like. In a weird way, it's somehow the sexiest scene that exists in Star Wars. There's actually a line so I've gotten really into the High Republic books, and there's a line in the very first one, The Light of the Jedi, where a non-Jedi guy is talking about romance novels that exist in the High Republic era about the Jedi, and there's the implication that the lightsaber battles in the Jedi romance novels are basically coded sex scenes. Oh, they're all swinging lightsabers to replace the things they wish they could be doing, and I feel like that is that scene to a T, pretty much. So yeah.
Next thing you know, you're going to be telling me that they aren't really trying to kill all those guys and stuff. It's just a bunch of actors on a soundstage, jumping around.
Yeah. So I think there is. Yeah. So I'm trying to think of anything else, but I'm sure whatever I would tell you to look out for, it's going to be something that your very talented and smart guests that you'll have those weeks will also pick up on and have thoughts to say about. So.
Well, I'll say this. I do remember wondering at a certain point if they would actually have not necessarily have Rey turn evil, but kind of have Rey go off with Kylo Ren, where you weren't really sure what almost like the way the cliffhanger of Han Solo being a carbonite, the cliffhanger would be what are
Rey and Kylo going to do? Yeah, exactly. Really interesting.
So,
I love the moment at the end though where she kind of shuts him out. She's I tried so hard to help you, and you're not coming with me, so we're done. Although then it gets undone in the next movie. But which I like the next movie. But I like that she shut him off. She's up, end call, done with this.
Right.
Yeah, and I love I'm such a fan of this movie. I just think there's so much great stuff. I after I watched these minutes, I definitely every day I've had to go back and rewatch. I start going through the rest of the film again, and I had just recently gotten because I drove down to Downtown Disney the Sunday after May 4th because I wanted to try to get the Leia and Reforged Skywalker lightsaber set because it was available online, and then apparently it was also available at Batuu, but it wasn't available in the store at Disney. You had to go into the park, which I could not do because it's very hard to get into the parks right now and it's expensive. But the Star Wars trading post in Downtown Disney has some lightsabers, but not all the lightsabers. So I ended up just buying just the Reforged Skywalker by itself, and I definitely in my head have like imagined multiple times like Rey reaching up and catching that lightsaber as it comes flying towards her, and it's just such a fun little moment. Yeah, so I could talk a lot about every other minute of this film as it goes on, so that's why I think I'll put a pin in that and let your guests that you're going to have their moments to shine for those minutes. You gave me five of the best minutes in this movie as far as like intensity and like juicy thing. Like I think I said like you gave me really juicy minutes when they were sent to me, so I will be very happy with the minutes that I got and let others have their time to shine.
Well, if you're listening to this at home and you have stuff to say about future minutes, past minutes, I guess, even if you're worried you're missing out on what we're going to talk about, you can call our hotline, 8-Day Greedo, and leave a short, preferably funny message. Alex is miming how phones used to work. If you leave a brief message that's kind of funny, then there's a possibility we'll play it on the show. You've heard and seen some of those so far. And your way to get involved in the show if we haven't contacted you about getting assigned some minutes so far. But other than that, well, we want to thanks again, Riley, for coming with us. And we will, like we said, we got weekend shows coming up on StarWarsMinute.com Patreon. And then otherwise, we'll be back Monday for a brand new set of Star Wars Minutes.
Minutes.